For Liverpool fans everywhere, this is the ultimate football app for you. For match highlights, interviews, and the best Liverpool videos and podcasts. Download the COP app for free now on the App Store and Google Play.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cop Table podcast, where tonight we are previewing the Watford versus Liverpool game this coming Saturday evening at Vicarage Road. So, joining me once again, we have Jay Riley. You can get Jay on the Radio City Fan Friday talk show, regular with us on the Cop Table, and you can follow him on Twitter at the Cop HQ. So, welcome back, Jay. How are you?
Yeah, just looking forward to this game now. Ticking them off the list, aren't we, on the march to this title? And, it's 4 wins we need now to guarantee winning the league. And we may only need 3, really, because if we go to the Etihad and avoid defeat, then obviously that affects the points tally that they can get. So, like I say, we're nearly there. And hopefully on Saturday against Watford, we can get another vital 3 points and, it'll soon be our title.
Okay, yeah. Spot on. Right, Jay, what we're going to do, we're going to go back over our last Premier League fixture, which was the West Ham game. In our preview podcast that we done for that game, we both predicted pretty much comfortable wins for Liverpool, didn't we? And it didn't turn out that way. And it was a difficult game to analyse, really, wasn't it? I don't think, we wasn't at our best by any stretch, and when we struggled in it for large periods, especially the first half, where we looked a little bit lethargic, didn't we, and wasn't really up for the fight. But then second half, come after their goal, we pretty much, once the introduction of Chamberlain was made, it was a different story, wasn't it? We dominated the game, then created chance after chance, and come away with the 3 points with a 3-2 victory. But just give us your thoughts and your analysis on the West Ham game, please, Jay.
Well, yeah, it was a little bit of a shock, really, wasn't it? Like we did say, didn't we, Liverpool, when they have a break, whether it be the international break or now obviously this new introduction of the mid-season break, Liverpool are always a little bit disjointed, a bit rusty. We seem to lose our fluidity, the momentum goes, the rhythm. It's certainly not ideal, is it, when we have these breaks? Because Liverpool are the type of team where they are a momentum team. So when we're playing every 3 or 4 days, it may not be ideal in terms of player fatigue and, the mental aspect of it all, because you're constantly playing games of football and there's very little rest in between. So you can't really get enough training into them because basically you're playing a game on top of each other. But Liverpool tend to do better in that way, because obviously you look at the December fixtures that Liverpool had this year as well as last year, constantly playing game after game without much of a gap. And Liverpool just kept on winning and winning. Last year we had the January periods was what cost us the title, really, though, because we started slipping up in games. We had quite a lot of draws. Then we drew with Leicester. We also drew with West Ham. And then, of course, we had the United draw and Everton as well, which was further on into the season in the March time. But it was the January, really, where we started slipping. And this year, it's been a little bit different because we've had some fantastic results, haven't we, away to Tottenham and away to Wolves. And also we won our home games as well. So, Liverpool managed to get through the January period, no problem. And then we had this break, and all of a sudden, since we've come back from the break, we've really struggled. I mean, okay, we did beat Norwich, but the performance wasn't great. And then we obviously lost in the Champions League to Atletico Madrid, and it was the first time I can ever remember a game of football under Jurgen Klopp in the 4.5 years he's been at the football club where we failed to register the shot on target in a game. So once again, not a great performance. And then again against West Ham there on the Monday Night Football, Liverpool were very lethargic in the first half, as you said. I mean, we took an early lead through Gini Wijnaldum, great ball in by Trent Alexander-Arnold, and yet another assist for the lad. And it was a bit of a lucky goal, though, really, because it wasn't a great header. It was really poor goalkeeping, though, by Fabianski, he's normally quite a good goalkeeper, really. I mean, it did shock me how poor his goalkeeping was on the night, and he should have really have done better and shouldn't really have scored. But thankfully it went in, and Liverpool led 1-0. But straight away, West Ham went down the other end, and set pieces were causing us problems, and a catalogue of errors really leading to the goal. And he had a couple of corners, and they equalised through Diop. And I mean, Alisson probably could have done a little bit better with it, but the thing with Alisson, because he's so good, like there's times when, I mean, not every goalkeeper would have saved that, but because it's Alisson, you think he should have done better, and obviously because he is so good, you think it was a little bit of a howler, but I don't think it was quite that extreme as a howler. It's just maybe he could have done better because of the magnitude of how good of a goalkeeper he is. But I'd say probably most goalkeepers still wouldn't have kept that out. And West Ham equalised, and it was a bit frustrating, really, because when you take an early lead at Anfield, you're hoping, and aren't you, that sets the tone, and Liverpool will go on and put 3, 4, maybe 5 past them, because I did actually predict 5-0. I wasn't my cautious normal self with my predictions. I actually went for it in this game, and it sort of like backfired, so that'll teach me. But like I say, I mean, it was a bit frustrating that they equalised straight away, and the first half was just a little bit of a, as I say, frustrating, really, because Liverpool never really truly got going, and they did cause us problems. I think West Ham are a poor side, and the week before they went to Man City, and they hadn't just defended for their lives, and I expected the same here, but they actually had a go, and they were hitting us on the counter-attack a little bit, and he poses a few little threats, really, and the pace of Antonio, and I don't think he's a great footballer, but he's quick and he's hustle-bustle, and he does cause a few problems. And Liverpool certainly didn't have it their own way in the first half, and it was 1-1 at half time at the break, and we struggled, really did struggle for me. And then in the second half, you're expecting a little bit more. Jurgen Klopp to get into them at half time and the team talk. And we just came out with, it was pretty much the same, a bit lethargic for the first 10, 15 minutes of the second half. And West Ham then went 2-1 up. And I actually thought Alisson was quite poor for the second goal, really, more so than anything. It wasn't really a great effort by Fornals. It seemed to scuff it really into the corner. It seemed to go past Alisson in slow motion. And maybe he didn't read it properly, but obviously it went in, they were 2-1 up, and you were thinking, oh, here we go. Is this the moment where Liverpool drop points? Because only Manchester United have got a draw out of Liverpool this season, haven't they? I mean, I think it was only the third time this season Liverpool had gone behind in the game of football as well. Quite remarkable, really, in the Premier League. And, it was just more about, there's plenty of time on our side to get back into the game now. So you did always truly believe Liverpool had at least pull one back and avoid defeat and get a draw out the game. But there was still plenty of time to actually go on to win the game. Because we all know West Ham are not a great side, but Liverpool weren't really performing to the levels we know they can. And once again, you're still looking, thinking, it's this international break or this mid-season break, and Liverpool still, it was 3 games in now, and we're still struggling, and disjointed, just couldn't really get any rhythm, momentum going. But then all of a sudden we did start creating opportunities, and it sort of like coincided with Naby Keita going off for Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Now, I've criticised Oxlade-Chamberlain quite a bit back in January time because he started quite a number of games for us on the spin, and he sort of like flattered to deceive. He didn't really do much in many of the games, pretty anonymous, certainly away to Tottenham and away to Wolves, and another game, the name escapes me, against Manchester United, sorry. There was 3 high-profile games there, and I thought he struggled in every one of them. But then he sort of like redeemed himself by scoring away at West Ham and at home against Southampton, scored important goals in them games. Now, to me, it's difficult to assess, like when you look at Liverpool's midfield, because Jordan Henderson's been fantastic. for 3 or 4 months, and obviously he's out injured. Fabinho was great at the start of the season. He struggled a little bit to find his form and fitness since he's returned from the injury, but he's still a shoo-in to start in games for me. So then it's a toss-up then who plays there in terms of, is it Keita, is it Oxlade-Chamberlain, is it Adam Lallana, is it James Milner even? And like I say, Naby Keita got the nod, and I wasn't against it because, like I say, Oxlade-Chamberlain has showed his worth in terms of he scored goals, but I do think at times he can be a bit anonymous. But the same can be said for Naby Keita. I mean, he just frustrates, doesn't he? Because we all know there's a great player in there, but he flatters to deceive so much. It's unbelievable. I'm sure we're going to go on and talk about him, further on in the podcast. But as this game, worked out, Oxlade-Chamberlain come on for Naby Keita, and it just totally transformed the game. Really, Liverpool's a little bit more urgency from them. The link play was a little bit better. Started creating more opportunities. And of course, Oxlade-Chamberlain's more of a goal threat, isn't he, from midfield, because he likes a long ranger as well. It's not just about the link play. He likes to shoot from long range, which Liverpool haven't really got in the midfield areas that much, and he is key to that. And I did think his influence on the game in the second half was big, really big. And Liverpool looked a much better side with him, on the pitch. And then, like I say, we got the equalising goal through Mo Salah, and once again, really poor goalkeeping by Fabianski. It wasn't a great effort by Salah, to be honest. It was straight at him, and it just went through him. And when you make 2 goalkeeping errors like that, it's a bit of a shambles, really, isn't it? And thankfully, Liverpool got the equaliser, back on level terms, and 2-2, and plenty of time then for Liverpool to get the winning goal. And we were chipping away, and finally it did come through Sadio Mane. And once again, I have to say, it was quite poor goalkeeping by Fabianski, because it was a long range effort from Joe Gomez that took a deflection, and he sort of didn't read the flight of the ball, the goalkeeper, and Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously he ends up being in no man's land, the goalkeeper, and Alexander-Arnold just flipped the ball over his head, and it could have been Firmino, and it ended up being Mane, and Mane smashed it home, and Liverpool went 3-2 up, and nearly went 4-2 up because we had the goal disallowed, then didn't we, for offside, another Sadio Mane goal chalked off, but Liverpool went 3-2 up. And as I say, we didn't really get out of second gear, did we? Again, West Ham probably feel a little bit hard done by because of the goalkeeping errors, but Liverpool just didn't really get out of second gear for me, and it wasn't a great performance, but we just done enough. We just got the job done, and that's what we've done a lot this season for me. And okay, towards the end of the game, West Ham could have arguably had an equaliser. I mean, it was good goalkeeping by Alisson. Their substitute Jared Bowen came on, and Alisson come off his line and just narrowed the angles, made it difficult for him, made a good block, and Liverpool ended up seeing it out from the corner, and job done, got the 3 points. And far from a vintage performance, but when you're going for the title and you're getting so close to the Holy Grail and you can almost smell it, it's all about getting the 3 points, however they come. And yes, I said I thought we'd win 5-0 last week, but wasn't to be the case. And I did also say, though, it's all about just getting the 3 points, though, really. And, anything else is an added bonus. And, we got the 3 points, and that's all that truly matters. And Liverpool go back to being 22 points clear of Manchester City. And we now actually play twice in the league before City play again. So hopefully Liverpool can go 28 points clear. But I don't think it really matters too much now. Everyone knows Liverpool are going to win this Premier League title. It's just a matter of when, not if. And we just got to keep on winning, because the sooner it's won, the better. And hopefully we're still in the Champions League and we can put our full focus on that. But, like I say, it was good to get the 3 points, and we march on now to this game against Watford on Saturday evening.
Yeah, and one thing that you did mention there, Jay, during your analysis of the West Ham game was the performance of Naby Keita. And before we started recording, we had a little chat about that and went through one or two things. So just for everybody else to get involved in it, well, what we was basically saying is that, one of our friends in our WhatsApp group, Sam Maguire, has done an article today for pretty much about Naby Keita. And I'll just share one or two things that he was explaining. He was saying that basically when you get Naby Keita, his performance as a box-to-box midfielder, he ticked all the boxes. He was throughout the opposition on multiple occasions, brave in possession, creative outlet, setting up 2 shots. While it may not be in a performance to add to a highlight reel, it was quintessentially a Keita outing. So that Jamie Carragher mentioned on Sky Sports, basically saying he's a funny player. You watch the game and he's the perfect example of, like, you think he hasn't had a good game and you think he's had a bad game, but then you see his stats and he comes out on top and everything. How many times he gained possession, how many passes he made to people in the box, and all the different stats come out, and basically he comes out as one of the top performers on the pitch. And you don't see that during the game, but then, like you say, when you look at his stats, it's there in black and white that he's actually done things that you haven't really noticed. So just give us your thoughts on Naby Keita, please, Jay.
He's just a total enigma. I mean, to me, he's got a lot of really good attributes, but I just feel that he's obviously injury prone, isn't he, made the prawn crackers? But when he gets a consistent run of games, he showed last season that there's definitely a player there. I think he played 10 on the spin last year, ended up getting injured in the new camp, and he was having a big influence on the team at that stage. He hasn't really, he had a little spell this season where he played about 4 or 5 and then got injured again in December time. It's just very frustrating. I mean, he's 25 now, and I do think he struggles with the physicality of... I think that it's a mental thing with being at such a big club like Liverpool. He seems like a quiet individual, maybe doesn't mix as well as some of them do, not really learned the language much. But that's not a massive thing, because Roberto Firmino's been here 5 years and doesn't really speak much English. But I just think he seems a lot more of a timid, quiet individual. And I think he's probably a bit fragile mentally as well as physically. I mean, when we signed him from the Bundesliga, from Leipzig, he'd been sent off about 3 or 4 times, and I thought we were getting this all-action midfield player who loved to bite into tackles. And admittedly, I hadn't seen loads of him, but to get sent off a few times the way he had, you're thinking, well, he seemed a bit like... You remember we all seen the videos in training with one of his teammates, and one of his teammates had a little go at him, so he retaliated, didn't he, and chopped him, basically, and it all kicked off in a training session. So you know he's got that in him. The mentality is there. But it's just a baffling one to me, because he just seems like a shell of the player that we thought we were signing in terms of his attitude and his temperament. And that's not a criticism as such, because you don't want someone who's a bit brainless, who'll dive into tackles a bit like a Xhaka, or someone who's sneaky like Jorginho. They're like walking yellow cards, them type of players, aren't they? They're not very trustworthy because of it. You don't want someone like that who's ill-disciplined. But I just think with Keita, it's like he's gone from one extreme to the other, and he just flatters to deceive far too much for me. And yeah, it doesn't help because he's never getting any consistent run of games, so he's not playing like 20 games on the spin or building momentum. He's definitely a confidence player, but he's got a lot of really good attributes. No one can ever really dispute that or take that away from him. But he just flatters to deceive far too much. Doesn't influence a game enough. I mean, you come out with all them stats there and certain people who analyse the game to a different angle to the average fan, shall we say, seem to like come up with all these stats and figures to suggest he's brilliant in certain aspects of his game. He doesn't get many assists, he doesn't get many goals, and he doesn't really... I don't know, he just frustrates the life out of most fans. But I've never known a player, probably maybe Jordan Henderson, but Keita and Henderson are 2 players that divide opinions with a fan base. It's unbelievable how they divide opinions. It's incredible. I mean, you've got some fans who think the sun shines out of his backside, think he's the best midfield player Liverpool have got, and when fit, he's got to be the first name on the team sheet, and he's this, he's that, he's fantastic, he's amazing, he's incredible. And then you've got other fans who think, look, we paid £52 million for this lad. He's been here 18 months, and what's he done? What's he shown? He's never really bossed the game. He's never really shown like he's a star player. He's never really justified his price tag. He justifies opinion so much. It's incredible, really. And to me, I just don't think he suits the way Liverpool play. It's clear to see that Klopp loves the midfield trio of Henderson, Fabinho and Wijnaldum because of the work ethic. And I don't think there's much creativity in that trio. But it works, doesn't it? You know, even back to like last year or the year before, we got to a European Cup final with the Brexit midfield, shall we say, of like Jordan Henderson was in there, Wijnaldum and James Milner played quite often. And it's just what Klopp preferred to go with. And people used to be pulling their hair out saying there's no creativity there and why doesn't Keita get a go, you know, like last season and stuff. And I do understand it. I can see both sides of the story. I can see both reasons behind it all. But to me, he's just an enigma because we all know the capabilities he's got. We all know that there's certainly got great attributes there and there is a player, but he's so frustrating because he's injury prone. I just think he's fragile mentally and physically. And I just think my own personal opinion on Naby Keita is I think he'll be given another season to prove himself. So basically that'll be 2.5 seasons at Liverpool. Well, it's from now it'll be another season and a half. So it'll be 3 seasons at Liverpool. He'll be 26 then at that stage. So I think that's the time to make a decision on him because probably have two years left on his Liverpool contract. And I assume he's still got a decent, you know, a good reputation, shall we say, in Germany, in the Bundesliga. So, you know, Liverpool may well look to cut the losses on him, basically. And if he's not really producing the goods after another season, hopefully we'd get like maybe £40 million back on him. I'd be very surprised if he was allowed to go this summer because I do think Klopp trusts him and thinks there's a player there, but he's probably frustrated himself because, you know, here we are 18 months down the line and there's still like a lot of questions unanswered with him, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? It's like we still are waiting for him to take off, and he may well do. You know, between now and the end of the season, he might take off. He might start next season fantastically well and take off and have a great season. So I do think there's another season in him to be given the opportunity. But I think sooner or later you've got to make a decision because he's not influencing the team enough. He's not having a great impact on the sides. You know, it's not like if he doesn't play, we miss him. Liverpool have done just fine this season with him just in and out the team. He's never really been a regular. So it's not like he's a vital cog to the team or anything like that, is it? And look, you know, I want him to succeed so much. You know, when we first signed him, he was a player that I was so excited to see. I couldn't wait for him to pull on the red shirt. And he's just been so underwhelming for me. And that's my own personal opinion. Some other people may disagree and think, oh, yeah, he's been good, he's been fine. And that's fair enough. That's their opinion. But I was expecting a little bit more. And like I say, no matter what, it's not his fault, the price tag, but he's our third record signing, highest signing, £52 million behind Virgil van Dijk and Alisson Becker. And when you're paying £52 million for a player, me personally, the way Liverpool are, where they're very savvy with the money and who they sign and what they spend on players, for Liverpool to spend that type of money on him, and we did have to wait a year for him, don't forget, while he stayed on for a year at Leipzig, you'd have to say he's been a little bit underwhelming, and really I want to see a bit more for the money that was spent. So, look, the jury's still out on him. And I'm not going to sit here and tell someone who thinks he's brilliant and he's world class and he's going to be special for Liverpool that they're wrong. But then to the same token, they can't really turn around to someone who says he's not good enough and he'll never make it at Liverpool. They can't say they're wrong either because I think there's a lot of questions unanswered still and the jury's certainly still out on him. He's got a fight on his hands to hold down a regular spot in this Liverpool side, because we certainly haven't missed him this season when he hasn't been playing games. So, look, you know, is he up for the fight? And the early signs in his 18 months so far at Liverpool is that maybe he's a bit fragile and he isn't. But I'm certainly prepared to give him, you know, obviously another season to prove his worth. And hopefully he will come good. And that's exactly what I want. And I'm sure you do too. And, you know, even the doubters out there want. But at this moment in time, for me, I think the key word that you'd use for them is an enigma.
Yeah, I think it's just about, like you say, trying to stay fit, getting a run of games under his belt, and see where it takes him from there. Because obviously there's a player there, but he just needs to start proving that on a more consistent basis and starting to chip in with assists and goals, just to get the fans totally back on his side 100%, and hopefully that'll happen. So. Just one other thing before we move on to the Watford game, Jay, is just a new contract for the youngster Harvey Elliott. He's I think it's that he turns 17 at the end of this month, but he won't sign the deal until the summer. 3-year deal by all accounts. So what do you make of that one, please, Jay?
Well, yeah, obviously he's only a young boy, and he's got fantastic ability and a bright future in the game. I was a little bit disappointed in him in some of the opportunities he's had more recently. Certainly in the games against Shrewsbury, I thought against that type of opposition, he may have stood out a little bit more for me in the 2 FA Cup games. But I thought other players were better than him in terms of Curtis Jones, of course, was better than him in them 2 games against Shrewsbury, and also Nico Williams, a fullback, and Pedro Chiravella as well. So to me, I thought he's still only a young kid, isn't he? He's not 17 until April time. So, when you're 16 years of age, you've got a long way to go and you've got a lot to learn. And he's got really good technical ability. You can tell he's a confident boy, and sometimes in life you need to be like that. But I look back to, the likes of Michael Owen, and Michael Owen was like 17, Steven Gerrard was 17, Cesc Fabregas was 16, Wayne Rooney was 16, and they were special footballers, and obviously Robbie Fowler, another one at 17, and they were playing, week in, week out Premier League games and what have you at that age. So to be categorised to the levels that they were, next season's big for him, because he's going to be 17 for the majority of next season. And to be perfectly honest with you, I don't quite think he's ready yet. I think he's got a lot of learning and development to do. But the positive signs are there, and Liverpool are obviously giving him a bigger contract. What is it, to 2023? So 3 years of let's see how good how much he can come on leaps and bounds. But I certainly think even though he plays a different role to Curtis Jones, I think Curtis Jones, out of all of the youngsters, is quite a little bit ahead of him, really, in the pecking order for selection in terms of getting into the match day squads, being on the bench, and even being called upon to start in games. So I think he's got a little bit of a way to go, yeah. But like I say, he does look very good. I'm just a little bit disappointed in them Shrewsbury games, really, because I did think they were the type of games where, if he is going to be a superstar, you've got to be shining against a team like that. Do you know what I mean? He did okay against Everton in the FA Cup, but I thought he was disappointing against Aston Villa away in the Carabao Cup as well. So, like I say, it's one of them situations for me where I think he's a little bit down the pecking order, and Curtis Jones is the one. To me, he's the one that could break into the first team squad and play like maybe 10, 15 games for the first team next season. I think he's a little bit ahead of Harvey Elliott, and he's got a lot more development to do. But the positives are there, aren't they? If Liverpool are going to give him, he's like basically effectively a 3-year deal, an extended deal, then, the signs are good for him. But I think he's got a lot of development to do still.
Okay, cheers, Jay. Right, what we'll do now, we'll move on to the upcoming fixture against Watford on Saturday. So earlier on in the season, they provided us with a tough game, didn't he? I think it was in the December where we played them at Anfield, and they had 1 or 2 chances in that game. Although we came out with the victory, I'm not sure if it was a 2-0 victory or a 2-1 victory. Just escapes me at the moment, the scoreline. But what sort of progress have they made since that fixture, and what sort of threat do you think they're going to pose us at the weekend, please, Jay?
Well, yeah, when he came to Anfield in December time, when he first took over, Nigel Pearson, he gave a really good account of themselves, didn't he? I mean, they were unfortunate on the day, really, to lose the game, because he certainly had very good opportunities to score against us. I mean, Sarr missed an absolute sitter, didn't he, in the first half, and then Deulofeu missed a really good chance as well at the start of the second half, and clean through on goal. And Liverpool left it late, didn't they, to wrap it up and win 2-0. Mo Salah scored a very good goal in the first half, and then second half, we wrapped it up late on. So 2-0 sort of like flattered Liverpool in a way, because it could have easily been a draw, that game. And the thing with Watford, I've always thought it did in a bit of a false position, because got some really good players. It's Delafeu's always a threat, a lively player. Troy Deeney, I've always likened him to a pub player, Sunday League centre forward, but he's very honest, isn't he? He keeps the centre halves in a game, and he's a battering ram, really. And you can't fault his efforts. Do you know what I mean? I've never felt he's been blessed with much, other than, as I say, I call him a glorified pub player. But to be fair to the lad, he's played in the Premier League a number of years now, and he does score goals. So who am I to judge? But they'd missed him at the start of the season. He hadn't really played much for them. He'd been out injured, and obviously he's started playing more often now, and he's chipped in with goals, and he's the captain, and he leads by example. So he's obviously a massive influence on that team. They're very physical, aren't they, in the middle of the park, with the likes of Kapui. They've also got Decore, big presences in the side, really. They've got Shalabar as well, I think it is. So they are a big unit of a side, of the centre halves as well. So it's a strange one, because after that game against Liverpool, you've seen the positives there straight away, adapting to a new manager. So you get the new manager bounce factor, don't you, where performance levels improve a little bit. It's quite clear it wasn't working with the previous managers. I mean, they had Sanchez Flores, didn't he? It was just a disaster, because he didn't really like working with him the first time around. He'd already been sacked once, and he didn't last long. I think maybe 8 games, and was sacked again. Before that, it was that Gracia, wasn't it, who got him to the FA Cup final. And I thought he was doing okay. He was quite a defensive-minded manager, and they were quite solid defensively at times, apart from when they played us. And obviously when they played, I think Liverpool beat them 5-0, didn't he? But other games, they were really close games. They didn't concede that often, other than when, as I say, the game against Liverpool at Anfield, and also they got battered in the FA Cup final by City. But Man City and Liverpool, 2 of the best teams in the league by far and away. So that can happen to teams, but against most other teams, they were quite solid defensively, Watford. And I was surprised that they had a poor start to the season under him. But anyway, he lost his job, and then Sanchez Flores lost his job, and they settled on Pearson, and they had an upturn in form, didn't they? And they ended up getting themselves out of the relegation mire, because they went on a really good run for about 5 or 6 games. And then all of a sudden, the form has just dipped a little bit. It's almost like the new manager factor, it's worn off a little bit, and they've sort of like sunk into the shell a little bit again, and they've had some disappointing results. But I think their poor form and their poor results have also coincided with the fact that Sarr got injured, the young Senegal lad on the wing for them. Now, we missed a shitter at Anfield, didn't he, in December time? But he seemed to kick on from there, and he's a very dangerous player. And when you put him on one side and Delafeu on the other side and Troy Deeney down the middle, they do pose a threat. They are dangerous, and because they're both pacey and tricky, Sarr and Delafeu, they do cause problems. And I think he came on, didn't he, at the weekend at Old Trafford against United and played for 20 minutes or something. So I imagine he might start the game on Saturday, which is a bit of a danger for us, really, all things considered, because it would have been a bit better if he wasn't available for this game and he was still out injured, because he's certainly a threat. He's certainly a live wire, and he's dangerous to add to Delafeu's threat as well. So, like I say, I don't think they'll go down. I think they've got enough to stay up. But, what is the 11 games left now? And it's vitally important that they start getting on the winning trail. So they'll be wanting to start on Saturday against Liverpool, really, won't they? And halt the Liverpool title winning party. So I think it'll be a tough one. I really do. Because, as I say, they're a very physical side, and Liverpool are going to have to be strong in midfield. This is a game where we could very well miss Jordan Henderson in it. He would have been important in this game for me, but he's not going to be fit for it, is he? So we're just going to have to get on with it, and it's going to be interesting, the midfield selection that Klopp makes on Saturday. But yeah, like I say, I think they've done quite well under Pearson. Had a little bit of a dip, but getting players back from injury now, so it's going to be interesting, the Vicarage Road on Saturday evening.
Okay, Jay. Right, before we do our score predictions, just give us your thoughts on on the potential starting lineup, given the fact that Chamberlain came on, didn't he, and basically changed the game against West Ham? Is he one player that you could see coming back into the side? And anywhere else on the pitch other than that, can you see any changes being made?
Well, as I said before, Watford are quite a physical side, really, for me. When I think of Watford, I do think they've got some presences in their side. So it is a bit of a dilemma. As I say, I think we will miss Jordan Henderson's influence, to be honest. But I just can't see there being a change defensively, because since Alexander-Arnold struggled for a couple of games, didn't he? He wasn't great against Norwich or Atletico Madrid, but then he was superb against West Ham, got a couple of assists. Would have been a hat-trick of assists, but for Mane just straying offside for the fourth goal. I can't see breaking up the partnership of Gomez and Van Dijk, because they've been great together, even though they conceded 2 against West Ham. Midfield's always the dilemma, isn't it? I mean, the front three, it's got to be a shoe-in that it's Mane, Firmino and Salah, because Firmino hasn't scored a goal at Anfield in the Premier League this season, which is quite incredible. But away from home, he's vitally important. He scored quite a lot of, I think, 6 or 7 Premier League goals away from home. And he's really important in the away games, isn't he? Leads from the front, and his work ethic's fantastic. Second to none, really. Sadio Mane should definitely start, because, like I say, he was on the bench against Norwich anyway, wasn't he? So he only really came on second half to get the winner. Again, in Madrid, he started that game, but he was taken off at half-time. So he will start the game, and of course, Mo Salah as well. So it's always the midfield area. Fabinho is going to be crucial in this game, because he's very combative, isn't he? And he's the type of player where he's everywhere, gets his foot in everywhere. I mean, Virgil van Dijk said he likens him to Inspector Gadget, and that's exactly what he's like. But his performances have not been to the levels they were before his injury. So hopefully, with these couple of games he's had under his belt now and a bit of momentum going, hopefully he'll improve a little bit, and this is a game where he can shine in. You're going to have to play Wijnaldum because of his work ethic, because he gets down the pitch really well, doesn't he? And he's well-balanced player, goes left, goes right, tracks back, links to play, pulls out left, pulls out right. He is a very all-rounded midfield player, so I think he'll play. And then again, it's the dilemma of the other player that comes into the side. And I mean, I really can't see Naby Keita starting this game. But will Oxlade-Chamberlain start it? Because again, sometimes he flatters to deceive in games, but he is a goal threat from midfield. The other angle is maybe James Milner could start it. Now, I know people listening to it might think, oh, we can't be starting Milner, but I just think more the fact that he's a combative player and he'll get stuck in, and it'll be a physical game, and it might suit James Milner coming into the side. But I'd probably just go with Ox, because, you can't... I know sometimes you look at the opposition and you make your team selections based on the opposition, but I just think this Liverpool team is so good that we shouldn't be worrying or thinking about, oh, they've got this, they've got that. It's Watford at the end of the day. I think they're back down in the relegation zone, and they're there for a reason. And of course, they give us a little scare at Anfield in December time. And of course, it might be a tough game, quite combative. But Liverpool have got better players than Watford. The proof's in the pudding. We've got Salah, we've got Mane, we've got Firmino. Just trust in our own ability, really. And on that basis, I probably would just go with Oxlade-Chamberlain, because he's always good for a goal from midfield, and it could be important in a game like this, couldn't it? Oxlade-Chamberlain smashing one in from the edge of the box, and could score another crucial goal, as he did away against West Ham, and he did at home against Southampton, and he did in numerous other games he has done this season, a couple in the Champions League as well. So I just think let's go with it and play Oxlade-Chamberlain, because he was important when he came off the bench against West Ham on Monday night, and he deserves to start really more than any of the other midfielders for me. So let's give Oxlade-Chamberlain a nod and go from there, and see what happens. And I think that would be my team. I think the only change I would make would be Oxlade-Chamberlain for Naby Keita.
Yeah, I think I'd totally agree with that myself as well. I think Chamberlain's basically played himself into the team, hasn't he, after that cameo performance, and basically dragging us from 2-1 to the 3 points single-handedly when he came on with his enthusiasm and his drive from midfield. So yeah, I think Chamberlain will start this game in place of Naby Keita, and that, like you say, will probably be the only change for the lineup against Watford. So Jay, just before we finish up, give us your thoughts on a score prediction and your reasons for them, please.
Well, I normally, last week I went for 5-0, which was unusual for me. And as you know, I do the Radio City talk show on a Friday, the fan piece, and I've got like a little ongoing thing with Steve Oddersall where one of my favourite predictions that I go for is a 2-1 Liverpool win. And to be honest, it's came off quite a lot this season. But after time, when it's came off when I haven't predicted it. But I just think in this game, I mean, Liverpool went there last season and won 3-0, but it was never a 3-0 game. Watford was certainly in the game until about the hour mark. Liverpool scored 2 late goals to put the gloss on it. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold scored a free kick and Firmino scored a header late on. But we were winning 1-0 through Firmino early into the second half. And Watford were well in the game. Liverpool just capped it off late on, flattered us a bit 3-0. And as I say, going to this game we had with them in December time when Pearson first took over again, 2-0 was probably flattered us. We were really lucky, really, on the day, I thought, because they had some really good openings and we could have got a point out of it, to tell you the truth. So going into this game, I fully expect it to be tough because they've got Sarr back now, as I've just said before, so they've got an extra little dimension to their attacking side of their game. They're a physical side. They've got some big, powerful presences in their team, and I think the midfield's going to be key. And like I say, it's important for Fabinho to have a big game for me. Wijnaldum as well. So, yeah, let them worry about us. How are they going to handle our front three? Not many teams can, but I do think that there will be a bit of a battle in the midfield area. So, I mean, as I say, it's going to be a tough game, but you can never go into a game thinking anything other than a Liverpool win because we're just like a well-oiled machine, aren't we? And we find a way no matter what. It just always seems to be the case. So I just think all things considered, it's Liverpool are so focused on winning this Premier League title that we're relentless, aren't we? No matter that whether we play well, we play poorly, indifferently, however you want to name it, Liverpool just seem to find a way and get the job done. And I think that may well be the case again on Saturday. I mean, we all love an half-5 kickoff on a Saturday evening. It's great, isn't it? Because, it's just around about the right time to start on the Ale, and, it's the atmosphere is normally quite good, whether it be at Anfield or whether it be an away from home game. So it's a perfect recipe, really, isn't it, for a game of football, 5:30 on a Saturday. And I just think, all things considered, Liverpool are going to be up for it as much as they are. And Vicarage Road, I mean, it's not really anything there. The atmosphere is nothing to be wary of as it going there. But like I say, 5:30 always adds that little bit of extra spice to it. So I do think it'll be a good game, entertaining game, and quite a close game as well. But I just think Liverpool have a little bit too much for them. And I do think they'll score, though, because of the threats they've got with Delafeu and Sarr and Deeney. He can pop up with a goal or two, can't he? But I just think Liverpool have a little bit too much, and a little bit of extra special players, the X-factor players, if you like, with the likes of Mane, Firmino and Salah, will just get the job done for us, really, and get us the vital 3 points. So I go for a scoreline of Watford 1, Liverpool 2.
Okay, so 2-1 scoreline in the favour of Liverpool for Jay there. Okay, my own thoughts on a scoreline prediction. Pretty much my thoughts echo what Jay was saying. It will be a tough game. They've got some big lads who play for them, who like to play the long ball. Deeney up front will try and bully our defenders, although he's not had much change out of Van Dijk in the past, and hopefully that will remain the same on the weekend. But I just think playing against these teams in the lower half of the table, the likes of West Ham who came to Anfield, it seems as though the pressure's off them, but it's a bit of a free hit for them. They're coming to Anfield. There's no pressure on them, and they can go out and try and enjoy themselves and hopefully get something out of the game, which they very nearly did. So when it goes back to playing them on their own pitch, it seems like the pressure's on the home side a lot more than it is for Liverpool. Obviously, we're flying 20 odd points clear up at the top of the table. Obviously, a draw or anything is not going to affect anything to do with what's going to happen at the end of the season. So I just think that the pressure will be on Watford to try and put out a good performance and try and get one over on us. So I think they'll be there to be picked off. And I'm going to go with the same scoreline as what we beat them last season. I'm going to go with a 3-0 victory for Liverpool. I really can't see this Watford side scoring at the weekend. I just think our defence is going to be rock solid again. After conceding, they're going to be working on the things that went wrong, and they're going to want to put them right. So I think it's going to be a clean sheet for Alisson. And I think, like Jay says, we're going to have far too much firepower for them, and I'm going to go with a 3-0 victory for Liverpool in this game. So just before we go, I have to say a big thanks to the LFC Day Trippers, Gav and all the lads over there, for putting out our podcasts on their platforms. Don't forget, you can get them on Spreaker, you can get them on iTunes, and you can get them on the thecop.com app. Big thanks to the at Liverpool Online Facebook, Instagram and Twitter pages for putting out our podcast on all their platforms as well. Like we say every week, don't forget to keep up to date with the No More Knives campaign run by Paul Bentley and all the people over there doing lots of good work in the community and fighting all the knife crime that's happening in the local areas. So yeah, keep up to date with the No More Knives campaign and give Paul and all the people over there as much support as you can, please. So yeah, that's the Watford versus Liverpool preview podcast done on the Cop table this week. So thanks again for your time, Jay, and enjoy the game at the weekend.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully another 3 points. And as I say, I mean, I've been a little bit more cautious than you with my prediction of 2-1. But of course, we always say, don't we, it normally takes Liverpool 2, maybe 3 games before you get the mojo back, shall we say, and the fluidity comes back. So maybe this will be the game on Saturday where Liverpool do give out a hard and we win 3-0 as you predicted. But I just think when you're getting closer and closer to the Holy Grail of winning a title, sometimes you can have a little bit of a wobble. It's only natural for it to happen because we're not used to doing this. We're not used to winning a title, are we? So this team has got a siege mentality, and this team is a bit of a freak because they are so focused on it. But sometimes doubts do creep in, and if performance levels are dipping, certain players aren't performing to the levels that we know they can do. So it is, at the end of the day, it's all about getting the 3 points. And whether it's 2-1 as I predicted or 3-0 as you predicted, you know, it is what it is. And as long as Liverpool are 25 points clear come 7:30 on Saturday evening, you know, that's the main thing. So let's all try and enjoy this game on Saturday.
Yep, fingers crossed, Jay. So thanks everybody for listening. Don't forget you can leave any feedback you want to the Cop Table Twitter page or myself or Jay, and we'll do our best to get back to you. I know we've been getting quite a few people replying to our podcasts lately. So yeah, thanks very much if you're one of them, and feel free to leave any feedback that you choose to do so. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening, and we will speak to you all with our Premier League preview podcast next week. Goodbye.